right, welcome back to another episode of Aftershocks TV right here on the CMS network, where we feature some of the best underground heavy rock and metal bands across the globe. And today we're going to Houston, Texas, as we got with us from doom-sludge, upstarts, STONE NOMADS, bassist, vocalist Jude joins us in Aftershocks. What's going on, Jude, man? Thanks for coming on. How are you?
Hey, thanks for having me, Matt. I'm doing great, man.
Awesome, man. All right, man. Well, Jude, Fields of Doom, man, the band's debut album, out now on Gravitoid Heavy Music. You guys are definitely, I think grabbing the ears of a lot of sludge metal and doom metal fans out there everywhere, man. And, just from listening to the record, one of the things I think you guys do differently, compared to, I guess, to your traditional sludge metal or doom metal bands, is that you really have that sort of back and forth between not only those sludge-laden tempos, but you guys really blend it with a nice groovy stoner vibe to it as well. You got sort of that balance with it. So, I mean, go ahead, I guess, and start things off by talking a little bit about STONE NOMADS, the sound that you guys have, and what's really, I guess, your guys' overall approach to when it comes to sort of putting those two sort of tempos and sounds and styles together.
Okay, yeah. Well, actually, my background is mostly playing like punk rock and metal.
Okay.
So, like thrash and stuff. So I come from really high tempo music, and John and I have been playing music a long time together, kind of on and off.
Mm-hmm.
The name STONE NOMADS kind of fits in because we kind of lived all over the U.S. and when we happen to live in the same city at the same time, we'd start up some bands.
Okay.
And just over the years, you get influenced by new things and you start trying to put it all together. And as we got together and started writing music, and we didn't have a big plan, except we wanted to do something a little bit slower than we normally do. Okay. And I'm a big St. Vitus fan, so I was like, we got to get a little St. Vitus in there. Mm-hmm. And man, I'm originally from Louisiana. You just start throwing stuff in the gumbo, and what comes out comes out. Right?
Hell yeah, nice. Cool, man. Yeah. Well, I mean, the other thing too, I think another attribute to the band that really, I guess, grabs me is your guys' vocal approach. I know, like you said, you and John sort of switch off. You kind of do the co-vocals, I guess, right? Which I think is also kind of, it sort of fits the, I guess, the similar fashion in the same way that you change the musical styles up a little bit as well from that sort of sludge and groovy tempos. You kind of go back and forth with one each other there. I think, I think it's really good because, like I said, to me, it keeps things kind of fresh and interesting when you've got to do. I've always been a big fan of dual vocals. I just always like the kind of co-vocal thing. So, I mean, you guys obviously with your now approach with that, same thing. I mean, is it sort of purposely, do you approach the vocals the same way I guess you do with the music in order to kind of keep things just interesting and, just switch it up a little bit here and there?
Well, yeah. I mean, we want to keep things exciting and keep things, exciting for us, and one of the benefits of having known John since the mid 90s is, we know our strengths and weaknesses, right? So there are certain parts, like I'll write a majority of a song, and I'll say, like, John, actually, this part, man, I really think you should sing it. I think it's more in your vocal range. And same thing, like he wrote almost all the music for Fiery Sabbath, but I take the lead vocals on most of that because he was like, I think this is where your vocal style would shine. So that's kind of how it happens, man.
Okay, so I guess it just depends on really what the music calls for, I guess, huh? Yeah, very cool, man. Well, let's get into the band's first single and the video that you guys just put out for the track Fiery Sabbath, as you just mentioned. I mean, the first thing I'm interested in to know about the track is the name, because, I mean, you guys obviously have a very Sabbathy-oriented sound, but I know, just being in bands myself, I know a lot of times when you come up with like a cool riff or just sort of like a skeleton of a track, you don't know the name yet. You just call it like a specific thing, like, oh, it's got a Fiery Sabbath riff to it. Let's, we'll just kind of name it that for now. Is that how that name kind of came, or am I completely just, way off base on
No,
that?
dude, you're actually 100% correct.
Okay.
Like, John had a couple of riffs. And he's like, man, this is like kind of an up-tempo, I don't know, a Fiery Sabbath song. So when he was doing the demos for it, he just titled it Fiery Sabbath.
Okay.
And once we kind of had that title, I was like, I actually really like that title. And so I went and I started writing lyrics. I thought that would match that title, and it all just kind of came together. And that's how the song happened, man. We finished up the music, finished up the lyrics, and Fiery Sabbath came up, just basically the way you were saying.
There it is. I had a feeling that just because of that name, I was like, it sounds just like something I would do in my bands too, man. So that's pretty cool, man. Well, and musically too with Fiery Sabbath, I mean, I really think, I'm a big fan of the song. I mean, it really captures, I think, really just sort of the overall essence and feel of what you guys are all about. And like I said before, you just put out a really cool video for it as well. And I think it's, a track that to me is one of the strongest on the records. I think Primitive Rituals is one of my other favorites on the record. Because like I said, it just really has, I think, a little bit of everything that you guys entail with your sound. So, I mean, is that why you decided to release this track first? Not the first track, but the video, I should say. I know you released, a track before that, but is this the reason why you chose this video? Just because it kind of maybe encompasses or entails a little bit of everything with your guys' sound?
Yeah, that's really why we chose it, man. You're reading our minds. So, it's got some groove with the beginning of it and that bass line that starts off, but then it drops the tempo and gets sludgy for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the guitar solo in the middle. That's a little bit, more up tempo. So it kind of encompasses everything that makes Stone Nomads, man. A lot of different influences coming together, different tempos, but that you put it all together and that's what we are. So we thought it was a song that really showed who we are.
I mean, now speaking now, you guys, like I said, are from Houston, and I mean, I've had a little history with the city myself. I have family that I've lived there for a little bit back in about the late '90s, for a short period of time. And I remember last year I was talking to the guys from Foster Mother, about really the scene in Houston, which really seems to be, I mean, burgeoning right now. I mean, you obviously got you guys, Stone Nomads, Foster Mother, Warlung put out just a killer of a record this year.
Yeah, they
Vulture's
did.
Paradise, yeah, great record, man. And Houston traditionally, it's like I was talking to the Foster Mother guys. I mean, it's a place where traditionally you didn't really see too much heavy rock and metal coming out of it. It was, I think, pretty much mostly kind of country music. They got a pretty strong country music scene there, what I've been privy to and told, been told over the years. So I guess just talk a little bit about really the Houston scene, because like I said, when I was talking to those guys last year, they were really starting to tell me, yeah, we're starting to have a little scene here and things are starting to get moving. And it seems like now, man, things are really just kind of booming, not just moving, but booming out of there. I mean, not just obviously in Houston, but obviously the whole state. I mean, every major city there, you've got, I mean, just so many great bands. It's just really the mecca, I think, of this kind of music within the whole country right now. So I guess talk a little bit about what you're seeing right now in Houston.
Yeah. So, like traditionally, what you were saying, like you get a lot of country out of Houston, which it's the obvious one, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's a big like underground rap scene to the whole Third Coast rap, and so we who played heavy music just tried to fit in where we could at different times. And I'm not really sure what happened around the pandemic. I know it started before that, like Thunder Horse. A couple of the guys are from the Houston area, and Warlung's been around for, I don't know, 6 years or so. But it seems like around the pandemic, early 2020, people are like, man, we've got time. Let's do something different than what is traditionally what happens here in Texas. And a bunch of good bands they started writing good music. Like the Foster Mother record that came out this year, The Ocean, is probably one of my top 3 records of the year.
Yeah, it's a great record. Yeah.
And we have a bunch of like younger bands that are coming up, and there's there's a band. Well, I say younger; they haven't been around too long. Save Your Skin, Dire Lands. Like every couple of weekends, you can go and see some really cool bands in Houston, and then some cool clubs kind of popped up that really cater to heavier music. So Black Magic Social Club on the east side of town, like just about any stoner band, metal band, doom band that comes through Houston is going to hit either Black Magic Social Club, or on the west side of town, we got a place called 1810 Ojamon, which is in like Wofat played there in the fall. Nice. And you were mentioning the Texas scene period, man. You've got Wofat, Destroyer of Light, all these great bands. And unfortunately, the Sword called it quits, but
I know, yeah.
We just had a bunch of great bands, and Houston, I guess, caught on to that a little bit, and it's a growing scene, but it's still small enough where you can go to a club and you recognize a bunch of the people. Nice. And every time you see someone at the club, they've brought a couple more friends, and they're like, hey, this guy's going to start a band, or this guy just started a band.
That's great, man.
Yeah.
That's how the scenes start. One of the things that I'm glad you brought up the venue thing, because, I was going to ask you about that, is especially since the pandemic, like for instance, right around here in the San Francisco, Oakland area, we've lost a bunch of venues, man, since the pandemic. And obviously they were so crucial with hosting, all the heavy rock and metal bands. And it's just, for some reason, it seems like those are the first places that always shut down too. I don't know what the fuck for, but it just does. But I was going to ask you about that. I mean, it seems like really the places where like Houston and so forth, where they really are sort of scenes are grown, is because you've got those venues and those clubs. And and that's what's, I think, really cool about obviously down in Texas in general. It didn't seem like the pandemic hit you guys really that much in terms of venues shutting down. In fact, like you said, you've even got now new ones opening, which is really cool, man.
Yeah. Like the state did not shut down very long.
Which is good. I know.
Yeah. So yeah, I used to live in Portland, Oregon, man.
And
I was just there this past weekend visiting some friends, and after the pandemic, that place was like a war zone. Everything shut down. People were burning crap up, and so we didn't really have it. We shut down for, I'd say 3 months, 4 months, and then they started opening stuff back up. it started off, you know, you had to sit on the patio, but it wasn't that long before you could go back in the venues. And so even some new places, like I mentioned, Black Magic opened up maybe the end of 2021. So,
okay. Wow.
um,
Right in the heart
yeah.
of the whole pandemic. Yeah. Wow.
So there were some places that shut down, but there were places that opened up that took its place, man. There's another one actually right around Black Magic. There's this whole kind of music scene where there's a new club that opened up over the summer called The End, which does a lot of like thrash metal and punk rock and stuff. There's a place called Trip 6. And then where we filmed the video, it's this old venue that's been around since the 40s called the White Swan.
Okay.
And it's really cool because, man, you could just rent the place out for $100. So
Nice.
you want to put on a show, you pay them $100. You want to film a video, pay them $100. So it's
You can't beat that, man. That's fantastic, man. Wow.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal, man. That's awesome, man. Well, yeah, man. Well, you know, Judah, man, going back to just the music real quick. I mean, a great way to me, you know, to tell these days if a band and record is really resonating or not is through the Doom charts, you know. And I know, I mean, I'm you know, lucky enough to be a contributor to that myself. And you guys were, I think, in like a top 10 or something over the summer, one of the months. I remember that's how a lot of people I know started discovering the band as well. So I mean, you know, like I said, that's the Doom charts. It's got about 50 or so, you know, journalists out there globally, you know, which is great. So you guys are really starting to get a global reach, you know, obviously, and which is great to see, man. So I mean, how much has that helped in terms of really get your guys' names sort of out there into the fold with all the rest of? Because it's such, I mean, there's so many great bands out there these days in this genre. So I mean, was that a pretty big boost that you guys got being on that Doom charts back in the summer?
Oh yeah, it definitely was, man. It helped, like you said, get our name kind of out globally. You know, all of a sudden we started selling some CDs out like in Greece and Italy, and really one of the main things it did too is that when bands from around the US, you know, who keep up with stuff like that, man, they started coming through Houston touring. Well, then, you know, they were giving us a call. Like we got a chance to open up for Elder, and
Nice.
yeah, that's kind of been the highlight of this particular band, man.
But
there are a lot of bands that are coming through. Like we're going to play with Damned to Earth coming up, and just a lot of touring bands. So that kind of gets our names out there. And when people see us opening up for national touring acts here in Houston, we can call up like a promoter in San Antonio and say, hey, man, did you happen to notice we opened up for so-and-so? We want to come to your town. And it just gives us a little prestige. And to be able to put on the resume, we were number 8 on the Doom charts. I mean, the same thing, like it adds a little prestige. It allows you to get better and better shows. So, sure. And that's what we love to do, man. We love to play live. So.
speaking of playing live, I know you guys obviously you've got some shows coming up. I know in Texas. That's coming up pretty soon. And I did read something that you guys were possibly looking to play some shows, just do a tour of the States. So what is the plan now, I guess, for live shows for the band, and when we can hopefully expect to see you guys on the road, across the whole country right now?
Yeah, so we have stuff going on in Texas. We're doing the old Texas circuit that's been around since the 70s, man. You hit Houston, Austin, San Antonio, Dallas, and you kind of make your way around that a few times. And this is kind of actually out of date. Like, we're doing these shows, but we've added some more stuff. Like, we're gonna play what's called Stoner Jam. It's run by Duel. And that's gonna be the 16th of March. And then we're putting something together in May that we're bringing bands in from like there are some Texas bands, but we're bringing in some Arkansas bands, some other bands. But as far as touring, it's going to be June, July. We're still working out the details, kind of late June, early July. We're going to do a Midwest thing.
Okay, nice.
So we're going to hit like places like Little Rock and Chicago. And I think we're hitting possibly Columbus, Ohio, and then hitting I think Memphis, Tennessee. So it's just the center of the country right now, and then looking maybe to do something in the fall as well. We wanted to go out west, but the distances are just huge, man.
It's big distance, and it's expensive to get out here too, man. I know it's tough, man. I know it is. Yeah.
Because like going from Houston to LA, there's not a lot of good stops once you get west. Like San Antonio is great for Texas. But then, I mean, no offense to Albuquerque, but it's hit or miss, And then that's like a 13-hour drive from where we are. And then you got a big gap from there. Maybe hit Phoenix or Tucson or something. I don't know. And then so the distances are pretty extreme. And then when you go up the I-5 corridor, it's kind of the same thing. You hit LA and then San Francisco. That's a big gap. And then San Francisco to, I guess, Portland. Then it narrows a bit. So we'll get there eventually, but it's a big distance, man.
Yeah, it's tough, man. Obviously, it's not like everyone's spring chickens and they can just, get in their vans and do that for 6 months a year. You know what I mean? So, it's the only obviously downfall, with the distances. But hey, man, as long as you just keep wherever you can play, man, it doesn't matter. As long as people are, be able to see you guys live and get a hold of this great music, man. That's all that matters. Now, for just quickly now, speaking of live touring too, I mean, festivals. Obviously, there's a whole bunch of festivals, down in Texas, especially. Obviously, you got Ripple Fest every year, which has just been off the hook, and you got Monolith on the Mesa. I mean, there's all these, Desert Fest in New York. There's all these festivals now here in the States, which is great because normally for bands with this, with your kind of sound, it was tough. Maryland Doom Fest is another one. I mean, there's all these festivals now here in the States, which is great, and they're all just growing every year. Is that something you guys might look into as well, especially Ripple Fest down there? I think they're going to put one on, I'm sure, again this year.
Yeah, they're going to put one on. And if Ryan from High Desert Queen is listening, put us on there, man. We've been harassing him to get on Ripple Fest this year. So we'll see what happens. We're doing, like I said, we're doing something called Stoner Jam in Austin.
That's
in March. The guys from Duel are putting it on. And I mean, we've looked at that stuff, but honestly, we're just really new. Like we just got together in 2021, and I feel like we've achieved a lot in the year and a half, whatever we've been together. But our name hasn't been out there for a really long time. So people like the Desert Fest and stuff, they really haven't had time to hear of us. So we're going to have to start knocking on doors this year so we can try to make it all in 2023, man. But we're persistent. We're definitely persistent, dude. Like you mentioned, we're not spring chickens. We're in our 40s. Like we've got to make some stuff happen. I've got a gray beard. That's why I don't have the center going.
I know I should probably do the same. Yeah, it's all starts always right there, man. Always in that middle. Cool, man. Well, once again, I mean, let's I'll put up the record here. Once again, the record is Fields of Doom. It's STONE NOMADS. It's out now. And everyone can go check it out. And speaking of checking it out, Jude, where should we send our viewers and listeners to go? Buy a copy, check out some merch, check out for tour dates, and just keep up with the band in general.
Well, as far as buying merch and everything, man, Bandcamp is where we sort of house everything, and it's just stonenomads.bandcamp.com. And yeah, I'll do a sales pitch real quick. Like right now, we're running a special where if you buy a shirt, you get the Fields of Doom CD for free, and you get this hardcore punk CD that John and I did back in 1998.
Nice.
We had a band called Retaliate, and you know, those things are hard to find. I found one at Second Avenue Records in Portland while I was up there, which was a shock. But so we're kind of just running a special. You get 2 CDs and a T-shirt for the price of a T-shirt. So, but and Instagram is a great way to follow us too, man. It's just Stone Nomads at Instagram, you know, and we try to post there every few days so people know what we're up to. And I just do some random stuff. Like if I get a cool record, you know, I'll say like, hey, this is what I'm listening to. What are you listening to? You know, so those are the best ways to do it. Instagram at Bandcamp. But I mean, we have a website and it's easy to find, stonenomads.com. We've got a Facebook page if you want to go that route. We try to answer as quick as possible too, man, because you know, if you send us a message, we will reply, and it's usually within a couple hours because we want to interact with our people, you know.
Sure, man. No, absolutely, absolutely. And Second Avenue Records, man. I spent hours in that place, man. That's one of my favorite record stores ever. Portland,
yeah.
that's yeah. I used to just go up to Portland just for that, just to buy records because there's so many great record stores up there, man.
Yeah.
So
man.
I know what you mean, but it's great, man. Great. Well, Jude, thanks again. Once again, the band is Stone Nomads, Fields of Doom. It's out now on Gravitoid Heavy Music. And once again, buddy, appreciate you coming on in, and you know, good luck on the road and with everything. And just we'll keep in touch and keep pushing you guys because this is a great record, man. Everyone needs to hear it.
Hey, thank you very much, Matt, for having us on. And thank you, Aftershock, dude. It was great. Y'all have a good one.
Awesome.